Every week, we bring you the Hot Takes segment, Keyboard Warriors, brought to you always by our great friends at Barrel Theory Beer Company. If you're going to the Wild games, which I don't think there's any home ones this week, but they'll be back soon enough. You can get the Crowler of the day, which, see, if we go to a game, you're absolutely drinking a craft beer, no straw, big old can. Section 105. Otherwise, you can get their Raindrops on Tap, sections 112, 217, and club level 36. And, of course, pregame, postgame, or during the game if you don't have tickets, it is the best spot. It's like a 15-minute walk. No big deal. See, we've got 5 topics here for Keyboard Warriors this week. And one of them, the first one actually, comes from... I don't know if we call him a junior producer or producer in the making, but Mateo apparently broke Twitter recently. Literally just posted the stat line for Marco Rossi, 16 games played, 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points, and a +5. And then a picture of Connor Bedard, 17 games played, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points, and a -6, and just said, it's time to have a conversation. #MNWild. And wow, people went pretty nuts over this. Z, do we need to revisit this and strip the Calder Trophy of Connor Bedard and not give it to Brock Faber, but to Marco Rossi?
First of all, attaboy, Mateo. That's good stuff. I hope you didn't reply to anyone that replied to you. That's the bet. You just drop. You just set the fire.
Good on him. He replied twice. He replied twice. I'll allow it.
I mean, yeah, obviously they're not the same. We should have a conversation though, because the Blackhawks fan base, the fan base there is so as any other fan base would be about any of their stars, but in particular, they immediately go nasty. They say the stuff they used to say to Russo.
Oh, dude, there's assholes in Chicago. It's crazy.
It's like whenever Bedard would have a 2-goal game, they would unprompted be like, I know what I need to do. Is make sure. I bet Mike Russo has no idea that Bedard just scored, so I'm going to let him know, and then I'm going to call him an asshole. I'm like, what the? Why are you doing that?
They're a softer, more cowardly Philadelphia, basically.
yeah. Some are just more distinguished version of Philly. I don't know. A cleaner version. Yeah. But yeah, literally, it's funny because I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the additions they made were helping Bedard. And I think the second that came out of my mouth, Taylor Hall got scratched. And then when the media was like, yeah, I had absolutely no idea that I was getting scratched. Also, I had no idea that was even a possibility. No, that's weird.
My agent told me I had a no scratch clause.
And then they just literally stopped scoring. So once again, anytime I say anything, just whatever betting markets you can find to bet on the opposite of what came out of my mouth, do that. But bottom line, attaboy Mateo, way to spark the internet. We love that. Apparently it's unbelievably easy to get that fan base beyond riled up. It is entertaining. Yeah. So good for you. Attaboy.
You know what? Proud parent moment regardless for us. Our little boy Mateo. Next one up, Z, I threw this one in because it kind of just irked me a little bit, but also I know you get irked by this individual occasionally. So Mark Diver, Divver, initially says Hockey East suspends Boston College's Jacob Fowler for 1 game for clubbing a UConn player with his blocker last night. He'll miss game at Providence College on Tuesday night. One Colby Cohen replies, an ESPN game missing one of the biggest stars, and then has a weird flatline emoji. Is Hockey East trying to kill ESPN by not letting one of the biggest stars in college hockey play when their game is showcased on ESPN?
That is a what a wild reaction from Colby Cohen. First of all, I thought you were actually talking about Diver.
No.
Well, I mean, that would have been tracking.
I actually don't know Diver until I saw this. So,
well, it was fun. Yeah. No, I love Mark, but he's wildly anti Fabian Liesel with like there must be like a grudge thing. Which I don't even know why I thought you might have known that. So that's where my brain was going. But that is a wild reaction to have. Now, the one thing I will say is Hockey East's history of like suspensions is legitimately mind-blowing, where like I was at the game a couple of years ago when they were playing, I think it was Maine. I can't remember who it was. And it was Nikita. Shout out Nikita Nestorenko, one-time Wild prospect. They traded to Anaheim. He was clearly, after the game ended, he was running around like a lunatic trying to like kill people. And a Bruins prospect, Trevor Kuntar, like pushed one kid just to get to Nestorenko and like get him off the ice. And Kuntar got like a 2-game sussy. And I was like, what the fuck? So Hockey East is bad at this. Like they are very bad at this. And there's been 2 other times. I think it was specifically with BC again. I don't know if like they just think Hockey East were all around BC. But like some of the suspensions were always sitting like, how the fuck did we just? Oh, am I allowed to say fuck?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. But there have been a few times Hockey East has made a decision on like player discipline. You're like, what the fuck? Like, get that guy? He's the one. Now, clubbing a guy, fair enough. But same time, I hope he does it again. That's a rock star move. I love when goalies do mean things, unless your name's Jordan Binnington, because he just does it like trying to spark his dog shit hockey team. But it is crazy to think, oh, Hockey East didn't want to factor in the ESPN viewership of this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Imagine if he like actually like two-handed, like almost decapitated the guy. He's like, what? He's on ESPN next week again, as they are every week.
Also, where does Fowler rank on that team among stars?
He's
like maybe
their guy. Yeah, I think it's different with the goalie thing, but I mean, like, no one's tuning in to be like, I can't wait to watch.
If anything, they're like, all right, we're gonna get like a 7-7 game. Here we go.
That's yeah. Again, crazy reaction to be like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this.
If it was Gabe Perreault, Alex Micheletti would have come in and been like, yeah, tell him, Colby. Alex, I love you, man. But yeah, weird reaction, but yeah, all right. Moving on to the next one, we'll stick with college hockey here, Z. And this one actually came, and I apologize, I can't give proper credit because I could not go back and find the comment once I replied to it. YouTube's weird. But someone replied on our video from last week on Judd's Buds talking about the CHL, NCAA stuff, about which teams might be, the new up-and-coming juggernauts now that there's a whole new talent pool that we can draw from. They mentioned one that we did not talk about that I think is very interesting to discuss. UNLV, banking off of all the Vegas hype, whatnot, and this is a team that has been rising in the club ranks. What say you to UNLV being right there to joust with Arizona State as kind of the two up-and-comers based on the CHL news?
Yeah, UNLV is fascinating to me because, like, in the sports that they have, like their varsity teams, I feel like they'll go through like 2 or 3 years, like, oh, like they're on the scene, like a top 20 team, and then they disappear and are like, 0-57. And I'm like, that's how I pictured like the recruiting for Arizona State, where it's like, we got the best recruiting class in the country. 6 months later, like, and 12 of them got suspended already. Okay, we're gonna have to do this again. That's a great pick, though. UNLV just doesn't have the same kind of like, because when we were bringing up teams it was like those big
Totally.
SEC football names like Alabama. Fucking, I think the one that I landed on was Clemson because I feel like they could make sick jerseys.
Clemson would be very cool. Agreed.
Very cool place. Yeah.
For me, the reason this works though is because you feel like that's a spot where they would invest. They would get the facilities. They would get the crowd draw. Like, it's not going to happen overnight, but we're talking like between 5 to 10 years from now, I could see UNLV building themselves to a spot where it's like, yeah, this is the no shit spot for people to go. And I mean, how do you not love that fucking logo?
Yeah, phenomenal yoga. The amount of jerseys that they could fucking produce is beautiful. But again, I think the reason that we didn't think about it last time was just like It's a different kind. Like everyone does know UNLV, at least in America.
It doesn't come to mind though if you're thinking
it doesn't. It's not a big name brand. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, they already have like the Club Hockey Foundation there. Like I just made up. But not made up, but like the schools that I mentioned, I'm like Florida, Clemson. I'm like, I don't even know if they have fucking club hockey. I have no idea. They could make a sick jersey though, but they've got the foundation with club hockey that they're like legit too.
Yeah. No, the best jersey we agree. The best jersey, Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
easy. All right, this next one might take a little bit longer here, Z. But
great.
I don't know. Did you listen? This is a Monday evening that we're recording this. Did you listen to 32 Thoughts minus Jeff Merrick today?
Nope.
So I generally will recap like big things that Elliot Friedman brings up. I'm not even going to try because I would need way too many notes to properly do it justice. And I know there's already an article out on The Athletic talking about it, but the landscape of the NHL where they are doing really, really well right now. They are bringing in a ton of revenue, and the salary cap is not going to grow commensurate with what the actual revenues are, mostly because of the players turning down increases in escrow and how that might mess things up. And if they make a huge jump all of a sudden, that's going to impact like one free agent class, whatever. But Elliot Friedman basically said he expects $97 million to be the salary cap next year. That is a $9 million increase. That is not a small increase. $97 million. Now, who are the two big names that aren't free agents but eligible for extensions next summer? A couple 97s. My hot take, this is mine personally, Connor McDavid takes over 16 mil, and Kirill Kaprizov sits and waits until McDavid's deal and says, I want that. What say you?
I mean, I think we're at the point where, like, why wouldn't he? And people will get up in arms about, well, he's not McDavid, blah, 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 blah. Not a center. And he's like, I would sit there and be like, he has, like, pretty much, I think, 10 minutes into him being on the ice in his first game for the Minnesota Wild, he immediately became, like, their most important player in franchise history. Like, it was, like, immediate. So he is a player. It's like whatever he wants. You're sitting there like, yeah, like saying no isn't really an option.
No,
I don't really care how old he is.
Especially after Leopold comes out and says, yeah, we can and will pay him the most out of any team. Like, it's not putting yourself in a great negotiating spot, but to your point, like, what are you going to do? Tell him no and let him fucking walk? Nope. I don't think so.
And people, I mean, again, like, it is a legitimate debate to have where it's like, oh, so what are you saying? He is the same as Connor McDavid? And you're sitting there like, well, first of all, Wild. Yeah, there you go. So it's like, in terms of how important he is for the Minnesota Wild, he's probably more important to the Wild. You know what I mean? Like,
that's like, what people don't understand, too. It's like you're convincing him to stay in the market. He knows how important he is to this franchise. If he leaves, you're dialing the clocks back 7 years, probably. And maybe that's not even enough. Yeah, you're giving him whatever he wants, but the real conversation, as it's always been, is here's a blank check. Just know, however much you sign for, that limits the people that we can add to this team if you really want to win a cup. You write whatever fucking number you want. Like, if he wants 20%, they're going to give him 20%. They don't have a choice. You cannot afford to lose Kaprizov. You will lose so much of your season ticket holder base. You're going to lose so much in the progress you've built, especially when you look at this year where, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that were way too down on the Wild, as Russo would say, with the likes of fucking Chicago, but no one expected them to start as well as they did this year. And you remove him, that's not a thing. Even if you replace him with a commensurate dollar value of player or players, you're not even remotely in this conversation. You have to pay him what he asks for. And if that's matching McDavid, you say, all right, hopefully McDavid doesn't ask for too much.
Yeah. And
he's going over 15, right? Is 15 kind of our floor that we expect?
Yeah. If the cap's going up that much, which if Elliot Friedman's saying that, I mean, I just pulled up the Athletic article.
It's happening.
And they're like, just based on the math that they've been using, like it could go as high as like 96, 90, whatever.
Right, but that means it's going to go up even more the next year, and you got to like compensate for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it is weird. Every sport, anytime someone signs a big contract, it's like, whoa. NHL in particular, just given the amount of money they make compared to other pro sports, anytime someone signs a big ticket, 90% of the reaction is, whoa, overpay.
Weird, kind of like Kaprizov's existing contract that everyone shit on. And Karen could have signed him to an 11/8, and it's like, God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be whatever, like you said, you could pose it to him as like, hey, it is a blank check. At this point, once, like you said too, like, yeah, you would like to be in a better negotiating position. But at the same time, not really. You kind of want him to like, hey, what? Yeah, what? Do you want to go 20%? I guess we can. Just know that means that we're pretty much going to have like the same level of roster we have now. Like, it's not getting improved. But again, the second he started playing for the Minnesota Wild, it took him maybe 10 minutes to become like the most important player in franchise history. As far like, and I got the other thing too, when the guy like that signs long term and makes a commitment that he's going to be there for at least 10 years, potentially his whole career, like that is a big signal to other players around the league too. That like Kaprizov's a guy that other players are like, yeah, I would love to fucking play with that guy. So there's other value beyond that. Yeah. Let's get that going. Actually,
don't tell Lazarus. Don't tell him.
Let's get that.
Yeah, I actually heard that Connor Bedard wants to come play in Minnesota with Kaprizov. Well, I mean, the Wild would gladly sign him if he was available and willing to come here. That's the same thing, right?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go fire off a tweet that's pretty confident. He'd love it, and we would love it. Yeah, no, I think it's not a hot take. Like, yeah, he's gonna make at least 15 on that next deal. Like,
I think 15's the floor, but I'm saying him and McDavid both make at least 16 is my kind of hot take. Maybe it's not that hot, but Wild fans that have been like, oh, he'll take 13 and a half. Like, no, he's not. No, he's not.
If he does, then I mean, he should be worshipped every game. But
Sean Cosgrove says, can they just give him like 3% equity in the team plus $7 million per year? 3% is like $50 million in value. I don't know. Mario Lemieux was given the franchise. I don't see why we can't pull this kind of stuff. Mateo, Boldy and Faber already being done makes that way more palatable to an extent. I mean, mostly because the Boldy deal, dear Lord, like if his contract wasn't done a la the Kaprizov 11/8, how much is Boldy making this summer if he's a free agent? Dude, probably going to have an extra digit. No big deal. Last one here, Z, and this one comes from our friend Timmy Johnson. owner, proprietor of Barrel Theory Beer Company. I'm currently sipping on a delicious cereal chiller Czech Pils. This is definitely more of a Z beer. Like, it's basically a like way, way, way better Bud Light. So you would love it.
With a cool can.
It's always got a cool can.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, their designs and beer names are quite good, more often than not. He suggests that, a la, Parisi Suter, just in honor of them coming off the books here after this year, why not bring another local legend home this season before the trade deadline? Bring Sid Crosby back to Minnesota.
A Minnesota
Bill Guerin is here, and they have a great relationship. Marc-Andre Fleury was his mandated PJ buddy. Sidney Crosby's probably not too happy right now over in Pittsburgh, and let's be real, the team that he would love to go to in Colorado in no world can afford even half of his contract. If we're going to trade Marco Rossi, why not do that and a couple firsts to bring in Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be the guy that sits here and says, no, they shouldn't do that, As everyone knows, the likelihood is like negative.
He's a bust. He sucks.
Yeah, can you believe that they're not undefeated with him on the roster? Yeah, he's terrible. I mean, that would fucking rule. Just picture Sidney Crosby in a Wild jersey. Like, I can't even.
It's actually like, I love the Penguins, and like I'm not like an anti-Wild fan at all. Seeing him in a Wild jersey would break my brain. I don't know. I've long been of the opinion that the Wild need to figure out their jerseys. The white jersey's solid. I'll give him that. But him wearing the like shitty knockoff North Star jersey or the standard green jersey, it would be really, really, really weird for me. But goddamn, stick him between Kaprizov and Zuccarello once the nut heals. Oh my God. That changes your team. And again, going the other way, Rossi, probably a couple firsts and whatever prospects they want besides Zeev Buium, Danila Yurov, and Riley Heidt. How do you not take that deal? How do you not? For both sides, assuming that Crosby is willing to leave, because I'm still under the impression he wants to retire a Penguin, but goddamn, it's gotten more palatable. But I'm actually going to pivot on this, Z, because there's a lot of people like, oh, Crosby won't do it, and if he leaves, he's going to go play with McKinnon. Okay, fine. We're going to take Crosby off the table. Can you imagine if Genny Malkin playing with Kirill Kaprizov? Oh my God. Honestly, weirdly, that would excite me more. Sidney Crosby is the best player in the NHL still to this day, my personal opinion. Evgeny Malkin is my favorite Penguin in the past 2 decades. He is so fun, especially when he's on his game. You put him with Kirill Kaprizov, oh my God. I would be so happy for Gino to come to Minnesota. And that's a way more likely scenario too. He's more affordable. He's more likely to be traded because he's not Sidney Crosby. You bring Malkin in at any level of salary cap retention. Ooh, I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and I mean Malkin was the one that when the Wild had $12 in cap space, yo, for Russo's mailbag, thoughts on signing of Evgeny Malkin? And Russo, his reactions every time were so goddamn funny. Those are my favorite reactions of all time. He's like, I don't know how to answer this question anymore. This is insane. They can't even sign all their fucking ELCs. And then you want to fucking go sign Evgeny Malkin.
From Mateo, Kaprizov, Malkin, Yurov in the playoffs. Oh, boy, howdy. People are going to lose their mind at you, Mateo, that you did not include Kuznetsov in this. But, man, I really think that Malkin to Minnesota could be done. You obviously are going to have salary retention on the Penguin side. You're going to have to give up a good amount to make it happen. And you're going to have to move a little bit of salary. But, it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I think that's way more possible than Crosby. And I would be equally excited.
Yeah, I would say both are extremely unlikely, but
yeah,
the Malkin one would be the one where it's like it wouldn't be less than 0%, you know?
And Bogosian's no longer decidedly the biggest human on the team.
There you go. Malkin, like that he's
a big fucking boy, dude.
He's a mass.
He's still he looks like, you know, if you took my baby and you use the old person filter on them, that's Malkin. He still has a baby face, even though he's almost 40.
Now I'm just picturing Malkin's face on your baby. And now I'm picturing when we did the live episode from your basement as I was yelling,
What a baby!
What a baby, as he's drooling. Okay, yeah, that would rock. I would be down. I would be fun.
Redux in December.
I am so considering Minnesota is appearing to be a pretty solid bet to be a good playoff. Like, they're a good hockey team. I haven't budged on that. Looking at the deadline, I actually have no idea where most of these teams are. This year has been so fucking weird around the league.
Not weird.
Not weird, wild. I can't even begin to like formulate not even predictions, just like what players around the league I'd want. Not just the Wild, but like most of these teams to go out and add. Like, there are a few, but specifically with Minnesota, I mean, you're just desperate for like any middle to bottom six scoring, I guess. And I mean, I think on the back end, even if they have a couple injuries, they at least have guys that can be like a 6-7 that could fill in on a bottom pair or whatever. That's assuming like all four of your top 14 don't like get hurt at the same time, which we never know here anymore. But I'm trying to like come up with players who I would be not even like more so just like confident that would be like a good target for like Minnesota specifically.
Probably blue line. No.
Even then, I guess more like
Brock Besser. Okay. Brock Nelson. Any Brock that exists?
No, you know who I want? Kirill Marchenko. Get Kirill and Kirill.
Ooh.
On the same hockey team.
Okay.
I think any team in the league would be fucking insane not to throw Columbus a ridiculous package for Marchenko. He fucking rules.
What's he getting paid?
I think he's got 1 year left, or did they sign him to like a 2 or maybe he's got 2 years left. I think it's nothing crazy. Oh, I was looking at this a couple of days ago. I should know this off the top of my head. I want to say he's like 4 points, maybe, or am I making that up? You would think that I would have that off ready. Yeah, 3.85 through 2027. So I guess they just signed. But 24, 6'3", 200 pounds. All he does is fucking snipe. 16 points in 17 games this year. 23 goals in 78 games last year. The year before that, 21 goals in 59 games. Like, he's just a weapon. And Columbus is going nowhere fast. But, I mean, he is in that age group, the age bracket where it's like, ideally, he's going to be doing this for another 4 or 5 years, and by then they're going to be ideally wanting to be like competing at least for like playoff runs and stuff. So I'm sure they want to not trade him, obviously, but he has been ridiculously good on a horrible hockey team since he came over to the NHL. And even when like his last couple of years with Ska in the KHL, he was getting the fucking like scratch or 12-second games, and he was still like half a goal per game guy. Like, he's been ridiculous. So I think, like, any team that needs scoring would be crazy to not throw a legit package for him. Considering, I mean, he's making 3.85 through 2027. So I mean, that tells me that Columbus is like, fuck off. But if someone throws them a real good package, I think whoever is doing that makes a ton of sense. And maybe Columbus thinks about it, but that probably takes Minnesota out of the equation there, I guess.
So Rossi, Freddie, couple other things for him and Juracek. I'm in.
Dean would run to Minnesota. He would literally run on foot to pick up Freddie and just carry him like
it's like Billy being like, "Can I take the PJ?" He's like, "Yo, Don, I'm just gonna run." Harry, feels like you're running an incredible rate.
And and just bring this back to an earlier topic. I saw a quote from like 2 days ago that like Don Waddell on the Columbus broadcast was like, we're hoping to have the Juracek situation figured out in the next few days.
Friedman said in the next week he thinks Columbus will have the Juracek situation figured out. I don't know if that means they're like figuring out if he's like AHL,
at this point, Juracek. If you're Juracek, you've already talked shit. I kind of see that headline, and if I'm Juracek, I'm like, oh, you think so? You think so? I actually want to sign an 8-year deal. So what do you want to do now, motherfuckers?
Man. All right. Well, thank you, Barrel Theory, as always, for sponsoring Keyboard Warriors, the hot take segment. This one a little bit juicier than usual. I'm sure we'll have totally sane comments in the comment section when this segment hits.